Hi. If you were a child when you were younger, and odds are you were, you may have seen the movie Madagascar. It's a politically correct diatribe concocted by a group of Brooklyn vegans to convince people that the wild is the greatest place, and that industrialism made us the real carnivores by preying upon our fellow man and animal in the form of the establishment of zoos for our personal entertainment. In the original film, all's well that ends well, and the animals learn to eat, sleep, and have sex with each other out in their native Madagascarian habitat, and away from the New York Zoo. Now, that may sound sweet and syrupy to you, dear viewer, like a sundae flavored with diverse fruits, a cherry, and Nesquik powder sprinkled on top, even though it came from slave labor. But I've got sinister news to tell you. That Back to the Nature film you loved so much when you were a child, it was a hoax, and not the original film. Now, I'd tell you how I have come across this, but I don't want to get my sources fired or worse, so this is between you and me. The 2005 DreamWorks CGI film Madagascar was not originally a charming metaphor for sticking a fuzzy, furry middle finger out to the man in exchange for Taco Bell and Mountain Dew products in the African jungle. No, it was a nightmare of epic proportions, like Rivers Cuomo's loneliness mended with a nail bat. A baseball bat covered in nails. You see, the original version of Madagascar, which never made it past screening, was like the Isle of Dr. Moreau in a computerized cartoon format. Yeah, I know, no one reads these days, so let me tell you the synopsis. Dr. Moreau is a mad scientist obsessed with creating his own creatures by becoming the master of evolution and using his isolated island as his own personal Darwinian laboratory. If you think the people of Walmart are freakish enough, this was something else. Actual cannibalism, if it could even be called that. People with fish gills, or worse, fangs. Lots of torn flesh, abandoned clothes in the descent back to the wild, and death. Lots and lots of unnecessary death, plus cannibalism. Well, I guess it's about time that I reveal to you who I am, after all, or at least who I was. I was a child yes, I was once young, naive, fat, and stupid. I was enjoying a king-size buttered popcorn in a Four Loko Slurpee when the original Madagascar film popped up on the projector. Yes, how fortunate could I have been to witness the future of cinematic America? I do not want to say how I got on the screening board, but there aren't enough squirrels in the world to cover these nuts that work at DreamWorks headquarters. Since you almost certainly saw what you thought was the original film, I'm sure you remember the animals living in peaceful captivity in the New York City Zoo, with Marty the zebra being tired of it all and Alex the lion being cool with eating raw steaks every day. But that wasn't what I saw on screen at all. Instead of the penguin characters chiming in about wanting to return to Antarctica, the whole escape attempt was spearheaded by a shark with 2 legs. I took a sip of my Slurpee and felt a little dizzy. You do not have a motive. You do not have a warrant. What the hell was I watching? Was this shark acting as a lawyer? The zookeepers caught him with a comedically oversized net that covered the top of his body, including his upper torso. But the shark got so viciously angry that his eyes turned a boiling red. I let out a scream at the highly graphic detail of the shark's incisors and the bloody, gory remains of whatever little llamas and sea urchins he may have preyed on earlier on his gums and teeth. You do not have a motive, Sharkster repeated. You do not have a warrant. Well, I threw up mounds of Orville Redenbacher and alcohol after what I saw next. This day I'll never forget it. It was, well, I guess a lot of people would be unfazed by this as adults, but I was a kid. And even if I hadn't bonded with these characters yet or ever, because the version of the movie you saw in the theater on your dad's hijacked internet connection on his Nokia N-Gage Taco phone, well, I'll just spit this out right now. Corpses. It was corpses. Alex the lion, Marty the zebra, all the penguins. There were even mutilated remains of fooses and lemurs, which made no sense because they hadn't even made it to Madagascar yet. Or so I thought. My eyesight was atrocious, so I had to squint first, but then I started making it out. The lion had dorsal flippers. The penguins had monkey tails. The Twin Towers were still up in the background. What exactly was it that I was watching? I felt a hangover prematurely kick in and tossed my Slurpee cup to the ground before a text dump lasered its way across the screen vertically like a Star Wars intro on speed. I barely knew how to read, being only 13 years old and all, but my eyes were slanted from the squinting. Eyes could make out a little bit. As it turned out, the animals had already been to Madagascar, captured, returned home. In the movie that you saw, there was a predatorial side for the Madagascarian island and a herbivorean side, but what I had actually been watching was a preview. And just that, but a preview of a preview, like a trailer of a trailer. Try living in that. No working plumbing, speaking of dumps. But it had been explained that the shark man was an evil genius who had originally been a real human man, but with the help of a serum he concocted out of coconut juices, shark DNA, tree leaves, and alcohol, he had turned himself into the most vicious predator of both land and sea. A man shark. Shark man. He was a shark. The screen flickered, and so did the light somehow. I don't know if they did that to scare us, and I'm not even sure why they'd want to, but I spat out popcorn kernels between my tears as they showed us a zoom-in, zoom-out of Professor Sharkster's transition. An operation in which he transitioned. Well, I wasn't going to support this. Red eyes from snap veins, smoking fumes like my dad on his 7th pack of cigs for the day, and freshly severed legs that the man tied onto himself without the use of any anesthesia. No, those weren't legs. That was shark fin? I threw up again. Legs? No. At this point, I was out of matter to throw up. I got out of my seat, but a security guard with a gun told me to sit back down. Upon closer inspection, it was a police officer for some reason. The video resumed as the preview movie ended with a court scene about personal responsibility, man playing God, and how the zoo should have left the fate of the animal hybrid animals to the legal system rather than taking matters into their own hands and executing them one by one. The zoo tried to argue that they were just keeping the population safe from being genetically mingled in ways it wasn't meant to be, but they smelled a bit of David Duke, Strom Thurmond, and a grand wizard who was not from Oz, if you know what I mean. Oh, no. Oh, no. The movie ended with the freshly electrocuted Dr. Sharkster surviving the electric chair, in a way. He had been buried by Mexican immigrants who brought their pet chihuahuas to work in a demonstration of natural beauty and diversity. But, good God, do I wish I closed my eyes before seeing this. The shark man had risen from the ground undead, biting into the Hispanic gentleman for brains, mumbling and muttering bits about taco mix, Vicente Fox, and a need for common sense immigration reform. The tape ended. The cops put away their guns, and we were all allowed to leave after signing a non-disclosure agreement never to tell anybody. But it's 2023, and most of the craters of Madagascar you were never attended, I assume, to see, are mysteriously deceased and replaced with common everyday actors. One was electrocuted in his bathtub, and I can assume he wasn't trying to make toast. Another took a vacation to literal Madagascar and was never heard from again. And as for me, this is John Sharkster signing out.